Aloha everyone, my name is Daniel Roden, student at the University of California, Santa Barbara and retail specialist, and welcome back to yet another retail case study. In this video, it is the third and last installation of our series, Concepts of the Future, in which we were talking about concepts from Kmart Corporation, Sears Roebuck and Company, and Sears Holdings Corporation, in which they ultimately failed, but were interesting of what would have been of these concepts that nobody has really heard about and is not talked about so often. In the third and last installation of this series, we'll be going over Sears Essentials. Now, Sears Essentials, brought up in 2005 after Kmart Corporation and Sears Roebuck and Company merged, was a concept that essentially combined both the discount and department store aspects in combining Kmart and Sears into a store, Sears Essentials. While the power of two became one, we will be exploring the history of this concept and the ultimate demise that it faced throughout the history. So here we go, the table of concepts for Sears Essentials. We will be introducing the case study. Sears Essentials. What is Sears Essentials? The power of one. What if Sears was Kmart? The rollout of the concept after the Kmart and Sears merger. Images of the locations, 2006. Conversion from Sears to Grand, well, some stores essentially. Early 2010s, dissolvement of store format through closures and rebranding, and the ultimate conclusion of this case study. So here we go, an introduction to the retail case study. In November 2004, Kmart reached a deal with Sears Roebuck and Company to purchase the iconic brand for $11 billion. In 2005, once the deal was finalized, another concept was brewing behind Sears and Sears Holdings Corporation in order to bolster sales revenue. This concept was Sears Essentials, or simply put, what if Sears and Kmart combined into one store? To fight against the likes of Walmart and Target, we will be exploring the introduction and ultimate demise of the concept store. Now, after the merger, Kmart and Sears, combined as Sears Holdings Corporation, was really going against the competition, obviously because they were losing sales revenue independently when they were individual companies, and together because we wanted to get a marginal market share that was good from their viewpoints. So trying to make concepts to combine the two likes and make them better than other department stores were in their favor, and Sears Essentials alongside Sears Grand was one of them. So here we are, Sears Essentials. What is Sears Essentials? Sears Essentials, to put into simple terms, is if a Kmart store transformed into a Sears store. Equation, Sears plus Kmart equals Sears Essentials. And this was actually pushed in their marketing and advertisement in and outside of their stores to make it simple for customers and other people who are interested in this concept to know what Sears Essential really was. While Kmart was a discount store, Sears was a full-line department store. Kmart sold low-priced goods and other stuff as well, while Sears was the luxury full-line store that sold everything you need. And while combining the two, this was Sears Essentials, essentially. Offering both for customers is just like Sears Grand, but it was cheaper, essentially. But was it really essential? Well, we'll delve into what it is. The power of one. What if Sears was Kmart? On November 17, 2004, it was announced that Kmart Holding Corporation would purchase Sears Roebuck and Company in an $11 billion deal. Edward Lampert, the mastermind behind the deal, believed that the power of two failing company would merge into one successful company, right? In 2005, the deal was finalized as Sears Holdings Corporation was created. Alongside this merger, concepts and plans to revitalize the two companies were underway. One of these plans was to introduce a new pilot of stores, which is Sears Grand, and also Sears Essentials. Sears Grand was before, Sears Essentials was in 2005. My mistake. On February 8, 2005, Sears Holdings Corporation formally announced the new store format. With plans to open 25 locations that were previously Kmart and Walmart stores, this new concept would prove to be the best of both. So none of these stores were built ground up. Essentially, they were rebranding former retailers such as Kmart and Walmart, making them into new pilot of stores so that they could just see and test everything out of how everything was logistically. Rollout of Sears Essentials after Kmart and Sears merger. Throughout 2005, the mentioned 25 locations slowly rolled out from Arizona to Virginia, A through Z. A through Z, A through B, right? All those states in between. Mostly in California, actually, like in San Diego and in Northern California, but some in Arizona and Virginia were introduced. As many of the following store openings would come from a Kmart store rebranding as a Sears Essentials, the store concept took off. In the following slide, images of the new store concept are displayed of what a Sears Essential location looked like from an exterior and interior look. And here's an image of the Sears Essentials location. So interesting enough, all of these locations you see here were former Kmart stores, right? So a majority of them were Kmart stores, and then Sears Holdings Corporation came in and said, all right, let's rebrand Sears. And then customers are like, huh? What happened to our store? Now it's a Sears. What's going on? And it was really weird for customers to see it, but once the banner's out there, like we see in the middle one, Kmart plus Sears equals Sears Essentials, two great stores, one big idea, or one big store, right? The top left-hand one was a big Kmart, then was a Sears Essentials that transformed back to a Kmart, then it closed. The Palatine, Illinois store was a former Kmart store, and it's now Sears Essentials. And you can see a customer clearly holding out a Kmart cart. Well, before the logo changed, obviously, in 2004, but it was still a Kmart store. And the convergence started, and ultimately, everything changed. So just imagine a Kmart layout with all the departments, but with Sears signage, essentially. And then when they transform back to a Kmart, they send all the Sears items out, or they mainly kept it. Fixtures and lighting and other signs were updated to make it to a Kmart store, and then it closed a couple years later because of the financial troubles that Sears Holdings Corporation had since 2010 before they stopped becoming profitable. But yeah, this is the images of the Sears Essential stores to give you a better idea of what it used to look like. Well, a Kmart being replaced by a Sears. Here's my citations for the images as well. 2006, conversion from Essentials to Grand, or some stores, not all of them, right? It wasn't a total disaster. It was like, oh shoot, let's just rebrand all the stores again. It was after a year, but it was some stores. So after a year since the pilot stores were converted into Sears Essentials, Sears Holdings Corporation made a decision to rebrand 16 Sears Essentials locations into Sears Grand stores. Sears Essentials locations in Tustin and San Clemente, California were ultimately affected by the decision as they were rebranded into Sears Grand locations. Now, these were two prime examples I could find online of which ones were rebranded into Sears Grand stores. And ultimately, they did keep the Essentials part of the whole thing, but they were modernized, well, quote unquote, after a year, right? It's like a new, fresh look, modernized. Well, it's the same thing, right? You only had the store for a year. It's already modernized. But they had a grand look and they were converted ultimately in the end. From this decision, the Sears Essentials concept seemed to be showing some cracks as the company tried to reevaluate their focus on the Sears Grand concept. However, while trying to solidify their base as a company, they pursued their expeditions and opening slash rebranding more stores for Sears Essentials. However, just like Sears Grands, the Sears Essentials also suffered the same conclusion, which is to dissolve and close all of these store formats. Right. Since the rebranding of Sears Essential stores into Sears Grand locations in 2006, the concept slowly dissolved as consumer tastes changed and the stores were deemed unessential. Haha, get it? Due to the unnecessary combination between both stores, Sears Essentials locations were either closed or rebranded into Kmart stores. To give you a scenario, a Kmart store rebranded to a Sears Essentials, which converted back to a Kmart, and then it closed. So all that money for nothing. The customers were left in shock. Kmart appeared again. They don't want to go there. Then it closed. The consumer taste. Say, for example, let's see, a company. Right. So, say for example, you go to a Whole Foods, right? This is a perfect example because Amazon, surprise, surprise, owns Whole Foods. And back in the mid 2010s, they bought them out. Anyways, say for example, you go to a Whole Foods market, right? And some of the people actually don't know that it's owned by Amazon, even though there's a lot of signage. And then all of a sudden, the next day it says, oh, Amazon Fresh just took over. I was like, huh? What just happened? This isn't Whole Foods. This is Amazon. Even though it owns the same products, you're kind of in shock, right? This was the same thing with Kmart and Sears Essentials. You walk into a Kmart store yesterday, they announced the rebranding. Now you're in a Sears location. You're like, what the heck is going on? This isn't the store I want to shop at. I want to shop at Whole Foods, or I want to shop at Kmart. Not this one. This is offering a different variety that I really didn't need at this time. So the whole rebranding confused customers. Even though they might have gotten good deals from it, ultimately they didn't like it. So they rebranded back to a Kmart store. Or for example, you could say a Whole Foods store. People lose interest in it. It's like, I'm not going to shop there already because during the time period that the Amazon or the Sears Essentials store was there, I'm shopping someplace else. I'm not going to shop here anymore. So rebranding it makes hardly no impact on the consumer taste. So that will ultimately happen, and then the source closed. So it was another failure and reverting back because ultimately the locations were deemed unprofitable afterwards. By the time Sears Holdings Corporation was deemed unprofitable starting in 2010, Sears Essentials locations exponentially closed or exponentially ramped up to close during the 2010s. By the end of the decade, no Sears Essentials locations were still operating. A lot of them went out, a lot of them converted back to Kmart, maybe even Sears. There's actually a really weird location that I forgot in which a Kmart was there. There was a Sears Essentials, then it was just a Sears inside a Kmart store, which I think was crazy because Sears would never choose that type of real estate. There were mall locations or non-mall locations, just like the one that we've seen for Sears Grand or maybe others in California or other location, but not in a Kmart location. So interesting. But yeah, the concept was another failure deemed by Sears Holdings Corporation. They lost profit. They exponentially closed the stores, and that was the end of the concept. So conclusion. As a result of the grand merger between Kmart and Sears back in 2005, Sears Holdings Corporation, the new company that emerged from the merger, had a concept up their sleeves to entice customers to shop at one location while benefiting from both subsidiaries, which is Sears and Kmart. This idea was Sears Essentials, a one-stop shop where customers would shop at two stores at one location. With a store that offered both discounts and high-end items, it was an interesting concept to provide an idea of what both companies looked like together. However, by the end of the next year, Sears Holdings already had plans to convert some of these Sears Essentials locations into Sears Grand stores. Moreover, by 2010, several Sears Essentials locations rebranded back into a Kmart store or closed altogether. This was increased exponentially once Sears Holdings Corporation were deemed unprofitable. By the end of the decade, no more Sears Essentials were operating. What was once a created concept became nothing once the stores were deemed unessential. That's about it. Okay, and that is about it for this video. The third and final installation in the series, Sears Essentials, tops it all off in the Concepts of the Future series. So I hope you took something away from this series of interesting concepts you may have never heard of before or you slightly heard of and you wanted to know more information on it. There you go. So, and the end is the Sears Holdings. Look at all these things that these guys own. And one of my other videos, one of my next videos, hopefully I'll be talking about The Great Indoors, which is a really interesting company that a lot of people have heard of, but I'll go over them. But it's so interesting to see how much Sears Holdings had like lands and a really good company, by the way. Osh, defunct now. Great Indoors. My Gopher, I remember my Gopher. It was fun. Kmart, Sears, and Sears Home Services, among others. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the series, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, comments, and/or concerns regarding the videos or just anything in general, post them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys stay safe and well, and take care. Bye-bye.